In this live stream, we'll be talking about one of the most popular and common personal finance goals, and that's saving your first or your next $1,000. My name's Chris. I'm a corporate accountant turned money coach, helping you improve your personal finances. And you're in the right place if you're starting your savings journey from scratch. Maybe you've tried it before, you've gotten stuck, and it's kind of like a seesaw battle with you. Like sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And we're going to dive into all of that today. And the $1,000 isn't necessarily, a lot of people hear $1,000, especially in today's, climate, and they're like, oh, that's not enough. That's not going to do anything, blah, blah, blah. But it's actually going to be quite impactful, and it's more important than you think, and it's more than just the dollar amount. So we'll be talking about that throughout this live stream. So yeah, thanks for stopping by. This is the Finance After Dark live stream. So if you guys are in the chat now, or you're watching the replay, let me know where you're watching from, because we usually get a nice mix from around the world, which is wild, but it's so awesome. And it just proves that a lot of these tactics and thoughts and mindsets that we're going over in this Finance After Dark live stream, it relates to anyone, right? If you make an income, if you have expenses, it doesn't matter the currency you use or the country, or it doesn't matter anything. Anyone can benefit from this. And, if you don't use dollars, for example, you just insert your own currency, whatever, right? But the same kind of idea applies. Hey, everyone in the chat, how's it going? How's your Thursday night going? Anyone have any fun plans? So it's evening for me. It's about 9 p.m., but does anyone have any fun plans this evening? Is it morning time for you? So let's just get right into it, guys. So why the $1,000 matters? Because again, $1,000 is not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, right? But saving your first $1,000 or your next $1,000 could be the game changer for you that kind of opens up your personal finance journey. It's the difference between constantly reacting to emergencies that come up, or if you budget and maybe you're over budget for a couple months in a row. Instead of reacting to that, we can be a little more proactive. It's like, oh no, we got this little nest egg over here, this cushion, that just in case some stuff happens, we'll be good. And it finally feels like when you start to save a little money and have that cushion, that you're finally in control of your finances. And remember, these are our personal finances, so we should be in control, right? It's a crazy thought, but we should be in control. And no matter what's happening in the world, right? There's a lot of crazy stuff happening in this world. Everyone's got opinions on it, but at the end of the day, like those outside factors, they have really nothing to do with our personal finances. And that might be a hot take, that might upset some people, but the truth is, like, we are in control, and that's the best part. It means that we can make a change, which is perfect. Okay. So the $1,000, it could start your emergency fund. You could start it. It would be a good starter. I wouldn't recommend only having $1,000 as your emergency fund for a very long time. Okay. Actually, it's good to beef it up over a long period of time. But if you haven't saved anything at all, I think just getting to that goal, I think, is great. The $1,000 obviously covers unexpected. I don't know. It always seems to happen to me. What about you guys? Like whenever maybe you have a rougher financial month than usual, and then that's when the unexpected expenses come out of nowhere, right? You have car trouble. You have to go to an urgent care or something. You have like all these things happen. And it's just like, wow, it's just like you get kicked while you're down, and it just seems to happen that way. That's why we have to like be proactive in putting some money aside for when these things happen. The $1,000 or, any sort of savings is a great way to sort of be a little more aggressive with your debt. So it's like, okay, I have the cushion. I want to pay off debt. But that way, if, something happens again, you can kind of go back and forth and you have the cushion, and you can pay off your credit card a little faster. And it's just going to give you the confidence overall. It's just going to give you the ability to realize that, a little more breathing room. And saving money isn't about getting rich, because we're not going to get rich saving money. Saving money, we don't get rich. And I think that's actually it's a pet peeve of mine. I think society, we kind of use saving and investing differently. I don't really talk about investing specifics on this channel, but saving is basically like a shorter term strategy. It's like, I want to create this cushion for myself. Investing is like, okay, I want my money to make it more money. And yes, there are some savings options that have decent interest rates and et cetera like that. But really, for the purposes of this live stream, saving is basically what I'm talking about. Saving, I mean like putting money into another account, and God forbid if you need it, right? But it's just kind of there, and you're set if you have it over there. Okay. So how's this feeling so far? Chris Kelly, hello. How's everyone doing? All right, let's jump into the next part. So we just kind of talked about why it matters, and I think the next part is probably the harder conversation. This is the why it feels hard conversation, right? Why does saving money feel hard? And I've been watching, actually, this is going to be a little side tangent, but I've been watching a lot of personal finance TikToks recently, and that's because I'm going to be starting a series on my channel where I'm reacting to what I think are bad personal finance takes in places like TikTok or Instagram, whatever. So actually, if you find any bad ones, make sure to send them my way. But a lot of people's content was like so depressing about saving money. And it's kind of sad that people think this way. A lot of times it was people being real and raw about their actual challenges, but then it was other people that they claim to be, personal finance people or money coaches, and they just sort of put down the idea of budgeting for some reason, putting down the idea of saving money for some reason. And in my opinion, these are just bad takes. Like, first of all, saving money is not, when people say that saving money is bad, they're talking about the optimization of their money, meaning like, oh, you shouldn't be saving your money because there's much better things that you can be doing with it, much more valuable things and better interest rates, blah, blah, blah. You could be investing. You could be, people are saying don't save money, put it in real estate. Like, people have, money and enough money for real estate. Kind of crazy. But it's more the habit building that we're doing. And it's not really about the money. It's about the habit building. And I also kind of, to close the loop here about the budgeting thing, people are saying that budgeting is essentially bad because of our psychology. When we budget things, we, and we're not good at it. We tell ourselves that we're not good about money, and then we get down on ourselves. It's like, well, if our psychology tells us we're bad at it, why don't we just flip that on its head and just start saying that we're good at it, and we're like improving. It's like, all right, give us a little grace here, Chris. Like, talking to myself is like, give me a little grace. Like, I'm trying here, right? And we're working on it. Because most people, you're watching this now, you know that you should be saving money. I don't need to tell you that. I know that I should be putting more towards financial goals. Like, we all know that we should be putting more towards financial goals. But I mean, you guys know, right? Life's expensive. Life happens fast. We all have to keep the roof over our head, keep the lights on. If you have a family, like, you have to feed your family. So I don't know, like, what's kind of the one thing in your finances right now that you would say is kind of eating up the majority of your paychecks, or, your money, or if you've had to dip into savings, what's been like the Achilles heel for you in your finances, like the challenges that's come up for you? Because quite honestly, to kind of go back to some of those TikTok mindsets that I was watching, I think people make very dumb decisions with money, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're bad with money. And also, just because something maybe negative happened in the past is the past. It shouldn't dictate what you're doing today, and it shouldn't dictate what you're doing in the future. Like, things happen all the time where it's like, It's happened to me back in the day. It's like I wasn't prepared for certain things, and I made mistakes financially. And if I thought about those and I like hid in a corner and didn't want to look at my finances all the time, I wouldn't have, sort of progressed through that journey. So it's really important to like, okay, maybe look at the past and be like, ooh, yeah, yikes, that wasn't a good look for me. But then we learn from it. That's all we do in life with everything else, right? If you're at your job and you make a huge, tremendous mistake, right? Who's done that before? We all have. We don't look back in a year and like we get like, nervous, anxious, whatever about that mistake. It's like, no, we learn from it and we move on and we like set up a process in place to make sure that that doesn't happen again. It's the same thing. And it's kind of funny, like all the things that we are already good at kind of in our life, where it's like, okay, creating a process, setting up a schedule, whatever, it's like we can just sort of lift that up and apply it into our finances. And I'm trying to think of a good example of this, but so I have a 9 to 5 job, right? And what would happen if I don't know, I was inconsistent with like showing up? I would probably get, written up, fired, whatever. And that's kind of the outcome of that. But like if we again take that problem and put it in our finances, like what happens if we are inconsistently showing up with our finances? Well, our finances are going to get fired. We're going to fire our finances, right? Not a great analogy, but you know what I'm trying to get to, where it's like we already have skills in our life for other things, and we just have to figure out a way to like plop them on our finances. All right, I think some people... Hey, Crystal, what's going on? Rent and interest on credit cards. Yeah, I got it. That's eating up the majority of your income. Yeah, I totally understand. Thanks for sharing that. So let's get into the kind of the next section here. Sorry. So I have a few ways here that to save your next $1,000, and it's there's actually 7 things here, so I'm going to go through them. Some of them are obvious, some of them are, like there's nothing groundbreaking, but it's also just very important that you hear it, and maybe the way I deliver it or something might help you change your mindset a little bit, but. The first way, and I hold true to this very, very strongly with anything in life, but we have to track it. We have to track everything, even if it hurts to look at. Back when I started my personal finance journey, I literally started it because I was embarrassed about not knowing how much money was in my bank account. So for the next, I don't even know, 60 days in a row or something, I just woke up and I looked at my bank account. So I was just... And that's not necessarily tracking, but it was like, it was doing something. I was looking at it because it was like, this is the problem, me not knowing what was in my bank account. So let's just start there, right? So I think a lot of people maybe don't start their personal finances, or they get discouraged because they think they see this huge thing where it's like, oh my God, I have to like eat the elephant in one bite, when it's really like, no, we're just going to take one fork at a time, right? They see this huge burden of personal finance, or like, oh my gosh, budgeting. I don't really know how to do that. I'm not good with money. You see this huge thing, and it's like, well, let's just take a step forward in that direction. So it's like, what do you think you're worst at? So I would ask yourself a few questions. Do you know, something as simple as like, do you know how much money do you make every month? Do you know how much you spend every month? Do you know the top 5 expense categories that you have, right? So like simple questions like that. And it's like, oh, I don't know those. Okay, let me just start understanding those concepts. And then like slowly and surely we can get into like actually tracking our money, building up a budget. What strategy should I use to pay off our debt, right? So like, we don't have to tackle everything today. We just like, okay, what are the big overarching things that maybe I'm not the best at, and that I can just sort of take slow steps, and then taking those slow steps on the bigger overarching thing are going to help everything underneath it, all the smaller little pieces to the puzzle. Does that make sense? So you can't really fix what you're not measuring. And I think this is true with anything. You can't fix what you're not measuring. And yeah, I just think tracking everything is so important. And I have some tracking tools myself that I share with people when I'm working with them in their personal finances. So there's a budget template, a debt payment calculator. There's also an emergency fund calculator and a net worth calculator. But a lot of times when I'm working with people, it's more just like we got to figure out the foundation here, and that starts with the budget. Okay. So the second thing here, once we realize like, okay, maybe I just need to get a little better with some of the stuff that I'm doing, or just like what's the big thing? I got to just start tracking something. I got to just start taking a step forward. Then we have to find, we have to use a process, what I call the 3-month look back. And I'm going to just kind of explain it very quickly, where we want to look back 3 months at our expenses and see what our spending habits are. Then we get an average of those 3 months. And then from there, we look at it and be like, okay, do we like what we see? Do we not like what we see? Are there any surprises, right? So this is kind of the second one, just in a nutshell. And then we create eventually a new budget amount for each of our expense categories. So like groceries will have a new amount based on, what we've been spending, what we think we should be spending, utilities, all the expenses, right? That's kind of the second step. And then you look at it, you look at that 3-month look back, and you try to find, you can call it like your money leaks, right? Or you can call it, if it's just not optimized to the stuff that matters to you the most. So once you look at your spending, the things that we put our money, time, effort in are the things that we say matter the most. So like back in the day, my wife and I watched so much TV and Netflix, like so much. We were so into so many shows. It was like ridiculous. It was like 4 or 5 nights a week. There was just like all these shows on that we wanted to watch. And then when there wasn't anything on like the regular, cable channels or whatever, we would go over to Netflix or whatever, and we just would watch shows. And then if we did a time audit of our time, we would be like, whoa, right? Because we were always like, oh wow, feels like we don't have a lot of time for stuff. And then when you actually look at it, it's like, wow, we have 3 hours a night or whatever it was, right? So it's not just like, I think that kind of goes back to the tracking thing, where it's like, you can't fix if you're not measuring it. So we couldn't fix our we don't have time problem until we like would look at it and measure it, right? So yeah, you can call those things like your money leaks. So for a lot of people that I work with, just as an FYI, the kind of category that they're like, whoa, I can't believe I'm spending that much in, is dining out, food delivery, all the restaurant stuff, etc. Because that can, it's so convenient now, not to just buy anything, because it is, but like push like 3 buttons and you have a whole like 9-course meal delivered to your front door. It's like, what? Yeah, of course people are going to overspend in that. It's just like they've made it way too easy, and obviously it's a good service, but like that's just kind of like a heads up in terms of what everyone's doing. So if you're kind of new to this, it's maybe look there, because a lot of stuff, it's like, well, some stuff we just need, right? Like, okay, obviously we need our rent or mortgage, we need the roof over our head. Okay, we need our lights on. Okay, like we have to eat, sure, you could do a thing where you go to a cheaper grocery store or whatever, but it's always not about just cutting our finances. I don't want people to think about budget or personal finance and think like, oh my God, I have to like cut everything out of my life. We just have to align it with the things, we have to align our money with the things that matter the most. This was kind of an interesting one, like another way to save your next $1,000. So inside my free personal finance community, Dollar Discipline University, and I have it linked up in the chat right now, if you guys just want to check it out. But a few people in there for the month of May, and they started one for June, but they kind of reported back in May they did a no spend challenge, and they really challenged themselves to not buy stuff that, they would classify as like a want item, right? And then in the post, one of the people in there like wrote down a list of things that he would have normally bought, but because he was in this no spend challenge that someone else in the community started, it had nothing to do with me, by the way. That's why community in itself is just awesome, because even the person that like quote owns the community, like I love it when other people are like chatting with each other in there. It's great. But it's just like a challenge that they did, and because they were very serious about their financial goals. So like, how can we get there faster? Well, of course, like the three ways that I know of that we can have more money is to make more money, is to spend less money, and the third is to do both at the same time, right? Kind of a cheeky answer, but the spending one is great. A lot of people do that like immediately first, right? Because it's the easiest thing to maybe cut stuff out. But at the end of the day, we only have so much room of cutting stuff out. Even eventually, if we like literally just live on a sidewalk and we never ate food again and we don't have any expenses, like eventually we're still at zero. Whereas your income, you can always keep increasing it, right? Even though that might seem challenging too. So I would call that create like a no spend window. So it doesn't have to be a full like month, right? Because that could be a little much. But like, what would happen if you, I don't know, like let's say you get paid every 2 weeks or something, and in the first week after you get paid, you can't buy a want item or something like that, right? And you have to be kind of honest with yourself about what a need versus a want item is. But it's like, okay, you get your paycheck, then great, we'll pay the rent, groceries, whatever, right? We'll pay the things that we need, and then if we still feel like we need to have a want item or have a fun activity, then that's great. But maybe just like little spurts where it's like no spending, I think that could be a little helpful. Yeah, and we kind of talked about it, but like I genuinely just think that building a real budget is going to help. And I have 5 different budgeting strategies, and I actually talked about these in a lot more detail on a live stream I did a few days ago. If you go on the live tab on my channel, I think it's called 5 debt strategies, 5 budgeting strategies. So I dive like really deep into all of them, but let's just go over 5 budgeting strategies very quickly. So there's cash only budgeting, which as it sounds, we only use cash for, again, of course, the things that like there's some things we just can't pay cash with, right? But everything else, we just try it on a cash basis. And this kind of just gets like the plastic out of our hand. And there's studies out there that show that people that buy things with credit cards are, I think it's like 52% more likely to buy something, or to buy more, I guess, than if you were to have cash. So that's kind of interesting. There's bi-weekly budgeting, and so this is for if you get paid every 2 weeks, twice a month, whatever, or if you get paid weekly, you can call it weekly budgeting. But basically, where every time you get paid, we want to link up different expenses to each of our pay periods. That's kind of bi-weekly budgeting. There's the 50-30-20 rule, which is a rough sort of estimation of, okay, we want to put 50% of our income towards our need items, 30% of our incomes towards our want items, 20% of our income towards our financial goals. The next budgeting strategy is pay yourself first. And basically what this does is like you get paid, and then we automatically put money towards our financial goals. That way it's like, okay, say you make, I don't know, $1,500 in a paycheck, and you automatically send out a couple $100 every paycheck, or $100, $50, whatever, to a financial goal. So saving money, paying off debt, etc. Hey Mark, what's going on? Salvador, I appreciate you. I'm not gonna blink on command, but I am here, just sort of chatting. Does that happen a lot where you're on like a fake live stream and like people put a recorded video up or something? Puppet Gush, how are you? This may be off topic. So you need to buy a vehicle just for in general use, otherwise you wouldn't have one work. Would you say decommissioned government vehicle actions is good? I am not a car expert, so I don't really know. I don't know if that's a joke or not. Auctions is good. I don't know. I don't have any information there for you. Sorry. Oh, Salvador still believes it's a fake live stream. Calm down, y'all. This is a fake live stream. Yeah, Puppet Gush. Thank you. You got my back. Salvador, I want a written apology in the chat. I'm just kidding. Glad you guys are here. All right, so let's get to the next one here. So we just went over, we went over five of the 7 things. So just to summarize, because I know it's probably been a few minutes since I was talking about this. So the first is track everything. Second is kind of finding your money leaks / link up your spending to your expenses. Then we had the 3-month look back, where we're looking at all of our expenses from the last 3 months, and we're trying to figure out, is there anywhere where we can tweak it? Not just meaning cutting, but also we might need to increase an area. If something's very important to us, we might need to increase it, because it's like, wow, I'm only spending this amount of dollars on this expense category, and I was telling myself that it was very important, right? You can create a no spend window where you're not spending any money. That's a good way to help save your next $1,000. And by no money, of course, I mean, like, don't starve yourself. I mean, like a want item, like, things that we don't need, right? And then I just went through 5 different budgeting strategies. And now let's go into number 6. So this kind of ties into one of the budgeting strategies that I mentioned, which was pay yourself first. But how can we just start? How can we automate, even if it's like a super tiny amount? Yeah, no, yeah, Puppet Gush, yeah. I don't know anything about it, but I mean, if there's a way where you can buy a car for less than what you would have in the dealerships, then yeah. I mean, because obviously there's a lot of crazy stuff happening in the world with cars. Cars will probably be impacted, right? So I totally understand that. And actually, in my family, two people bought cars that they probably didn't need to buy cars, and they bought cars because they were concerned of like the pending tariffs and all this stuff. And this is not a political show or anything like that, but yeah, it's just funny how people are trying to get ahead, like they're getting in debt. Like both of these situations, they both had a loan, and they're not like poor by any means or anything like that, but they didn't need the car. They did it because they thought it would be a lot more expensive in like 4 or 5 years when they needed a new car or something. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely a good option to look through and think about. Any way that's like, if the car is safe, I mean, I don't care. I have no problem with that, but I know everyone needs a reliable vehicle. So as long as you do your due diligence, I would say do it. Yeah. So automate a tiny amount. So, I was working with someone on his personal finances, and he was very stressed because he literally like was just never saving any money, and his bank account was always in like the double digits at the end of every month. We're talking like $61, right? And he was doing the budgeting thing, and I was like, okay, why don't we do this? Because he got paid weekly. I was like, why don't we do this? Why don't we put aside $25 every paycheck immediately? And that way, at the end of the month, since you get paid weekly, you're going to have $100 saved. And that's $100 more than you had last month. So while $100 is not going to make us rich or get out of a financial hole, that individual was building the habit. And then he's done that now for a couple months, And yes, it's kind of been like a seesaw sometimes where it's like he would come out of the month unscathed and he didn't have to use that $100. Sometimes he would have to dip into it, but he was like, okay, I learned my lesson. But he's building up the habit. And I think people just want to have it fixed so fast. And I totally get it. But sometimes it's just, how do we just want to, like, I don't know, we want to just go forward and sometimes we have to take a look back. We have to get the bird's eye view of what's going on in our finances, and we have to kind of figure it out that way. But like anything, even like I'm saying, yeah. So like, how it was? Can you guys save $100 a month? I mean, I would challenge you, right? Or could you think about it in terms of like daily? Like, okay, $5 a day is $150 a month. That's significant too. So is there something that you're buying daily or almost daily that you could either stop doing or like find a cheaper way to do it, kind of thing, you know? And I hate, this isn't the conversation of like, oh, don't buy your Starbucks coffee, your Dunkin' Donuts coffee, whatever, right? This isn't that conversation. I actually hate those kind of conversations, but just another way to think about it. Like every little small thing could be impactful, or at the end of the month, if you ended up changing certain things that you did and saving small amounts each time, and it adds up to $100 plus, and you've never had savings before, I just think that could be very beneficial, because after doing that for a couple months, that savings of $100, $100, and then maybe it's like, okay, $200, $250, and you're talking, that's monthly, right? And it just kind of keeps piling up, and then you get to your first savings goal of like the $1,000, then it's like, okay, let's, the $250 that we were able to find in our finances and put towards our savings is now going extra towards debt, and we can be very aggressive with that, right? And it just kind of, everything builds on itself, which is really exciting. And another one that I have here is to save unexpected money. So I know what I used to do when I would get an unexpected money, like a refund or a gift or a, I don't know, a bonus check or something, or like a raise. It's like I wouldn't have a plan for it. So every time money hits your bank account, we should be asking ourselves like, okay, what's the plan with this? We should have a plan. And if it's, yeah, even like, you know, again, a $25 check or something that someone gives you for your birthday, right? It's like, instead of thinking like, oh, what can I do with it? And just spend it immediately. It's like, well, I haven't saved money yet this month. Maybe I can put it in my savings, right? Just anything to like build a habit. Cause trust me, like once you start thinking about this, you're going to always think about it. And it's good. I found this very helpful. Crystal, have a specific amount automatically go into savings account every, yeah. Yes, Crystal. I love that. How about putting money in CDs every pay period? Yeah, I mean, CDs are like a savings vessel. So I think that's great too. Yeah, no, that's cool, guys. Yeah, like how can we kind of plan ahead with that, right? One thing I noticed is personal spending inflation. I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but say someone makes more at a new job than their old one, they start spending more than they use it. Yeah, that's so true. That's so true, because they like, it happens all the time. It's like people use the phrase like lifestyle creep. But yeah, personal spending inflation. Yeah, I totally know what you're talking about. Where it's like we make more money, but we're not taking the step back. We're not taking the bird's eye view to kind of figure out like what we're gonna do with it. And then our increase turns into like a brand new couch all of a sudden, and then and then it's like, well, I need some like nice throw pillows with it. It's like, well, now the coffee table doesn't really match with the thing, and it's like, well, now the curtains don't really match with the room, and then it's like, well, now the floor does, right? You see where this is going? Like it just kind of keeps kind of stacking up. So yeah, that it can get kind of dangerous if you're not careful, for sure. So let's talk about the next section here about saving our next or first $1,000. And we've talked a lot about some of this stuff throughout the live stream already, but some mental shifts and how do we stay motivated, okay? Because saving money isn't about like deprivation, meaning like it's not about like what we don't have, but it's about just getting in a direction. And it's about habit stacking. I think I'll every time I talk about saving money, I probably say the word habit a bajillion times, because it's so true. It's like saving is a direction. It's not a milestone. I wouldn't say it's more of like it's just like a thing that we learn how to do, and once we do that, that's kind of like the baby step we need to kind of move it forward. And I just think like the thing standing between us and a better financial future is the decisions that we make, right? So right now, if because I used to do this a lot, where I would think into the future a little bit about what my personal finances would look like and what I wanted to do, and I saw these like big cool goals. I was like, oh wow, that sounds great. I would love to have $1 million or whatever, right? But it's like you take the zoomed out look and you're like, oh wow, but like how am I gonna do that, right? Because it's this big obstacle. It's like, well, okay, um, I don't know how I'm gonna get to $1 million, but I know how to get to $1,000. And then it's like, well, if I saved $1,000, I know what to do for 10,000. Like I know how to get to 10, and you just kind of keep learning. And then it's like, okay, once you hit a point where it's like, I think I've saved enough money, and now maybe it's like I need to maybe learn a little more about investing, or like how do I grow my money, right? Instead of just having it sit in a regular savings account. And then we kind of learn how to optimize our money. But I think people want to optimize their money as soon as possible. And the stuff that I see on TikTok all the time, yeah, people are just kind of bashing how people use their money. Like there's some really awesome TikToks where people are just like super raw and they're just talking through their personal finances. Some of these people are not, they don't consider themselves to be personal finance people or money experts or anything like that. They're just like documenting their life, right? And the people in the comments are just like, come on. They're just giving them such a hard time. Like this person's trying to save money and they're like, oh, I have $15,000 in my I don't know, Bank of America savings account, and I've been working on it for years and years and years. And then there's people in the comments that are like, oh my God, you should be having that in a high yield savings account. Oh my God, I can't believe you missed out on all this interest. And it's like, okay, sure. But like the most important thing, like for her, that was such a huge accomplishment because she never really had saved money before. So it took her years to save $15,000. And she was so proud of herself, and she should be. It's a great accomplishment, but I don't like the idea of like of what am I trying to say? Optimizing before you build the habits, because like if you don't have a habit, there's nothing to optimize, and it's like you don't know what you're doing. You're in over your head, and that's how I felt with investing. To be very honest with you, I thought that investing was like the shiny object, and I was like, ooh, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and I just started investing into some individual companies that people on the internet were saying were awesome, right? And I didn't know anything about really investing or the companies themselves, which is like a huge problem. And I was so stressed about like losing the money. It felt like gambling because again, I had done no research. I didn't know what I was doing. So, since then I've kind of backed out, and now it's more of a broader approach for that with investing. Like I'm okay to say that I don't know. I'm not an expert in that area, and that's okay. But I still, we have like a checking account little buffer. We have emergency fund, and then we have like kind of our investing stuff. So that's how we built it up. It's like, okay, let's just like, because eventually we got to a point where we were disciplined, where we would see money in our checking account and not just need to spend it. So we're like, okay, let's just have a buffer here. And especially now we have two little kids, we have a mortgage. So it's like, there's no point in playing the game of like sending money in and out to optimize it. It's like, let's just relax. We'll take, here's our level in our checking account. And then we have also this other buffer here. And then like we have investing, which we wouldn't probably touch to take our money in. But I just think that's a good approach. It's like, just build up the habit of putting money aside first. I just think that's just very important, in my opinion. All right. What do we got here? Cool. If you guys are in the chat or if you're watching replay, like, are you getting, value from these live streams? Um, if you're new here, I'm going to be doing these every day through the end of June. And it's been like, I don't know, a week, a little less than a week. And it's already a lot. I'm already try to, because I know there's people on here that, and I appreciate you guys so much that come on almost every one of these so far. And I'm trying to make the content a little different, so I'm not saying the same thing over and over to you guys. But I would love your feedback. Like, has this been helpful? Is there something else that you want to have, get information on? And I love that you guys are engaging in the chat too. That makes it very helpful. So it's not just me talking for 45 minutes or whatever it is. Puppet Gush. Investing through stock market is so difficult. I tried it, but stay away now. To be honest, I don't have enough knowledge about it. There's other, like you said, broader ways of using your money in better ways. Yeah, I totally agree with that. We just have to be okay with the idea that we're not going to be experts on everything. So it's like, how do we take the easy approach, right? And that's what me and my wife are doing in investing. We're just like, set it and forget it. We have longer term plans with that stuff. So it's like, we'll just kind of let it sit there. But yeah. Crystal, yes, I'm enjoying the talks. Amazing. That's great. Mark, I'm learning a lot from these live streams. I love that. So happy to hear that. Pineapple Pyramid, yes. You want more information on goal setting? You did a great job breaking down goals. Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah. That was actually a literal presentation that I created, and it's a video that's inside my personal finance community, which is linked in the chat. So that's why maybe that seemed very structured, and some of these other ones do not. But I can certainly do more talks around goals, because I do think that's an important way. So that can be something that comes up soon. Pineapple, I appreciate the feedback. Oops. But yeah, guys, so if you're not already, make sure to subscribe, because again, I'm going live every night for me. So if you're not subscribed, if you do subscribe, the YouTube will notify you when I go live, and we can all hang out. We could talk about money and stuff. I think it's great. If you're not in the personal finance community, I'd love to have you in there. We talk about money in there too, and it's a little more like there's other people besides just me talking. Like there's other people putting out posts, and I mentioned before in this live stream where people did a May no spend challenge in there to the best of their ability, and people were kind of breaking down the stuff that happened in May for them and the money that they thought they had saved based on the things that they didn't buy. So it's just kind of a cool community. And I love when it's like I can kind of take a step back from it and let the other people do their thing in there. I think it's great. But yeah, I'm doing calls in there with people, and I'm very happy that I started that, because I'm actually learning a lot from the people in there too, which is great. And I'm not the only one. Like, I have things to learn too, so it's like I'm not like the only one that I'm not the quote expert in there. Like there's other people that are very helpful, which is great. So, but yeah, if you're yeah, Pineapple, I appreciate you. But yeah, I guess Pineapple, are there any specific goals that you have in mind? Like, what are you working on right now in your personal finances, if you want to share? And you can just be super vague. Like, are you trying to save more money? Are you trying to pay off debt? Do you have a shorter term goal where you're just trying to do something in the next 6 months? Are you thinking longer term, like a 10-year goal? Yeah, I'd love to see how I can help you there. So yeah, I would say I would kind of finish up the live stream here by saying I mentioned a lot of things tonight about saving money. So kind of my challenge for you, maybe you could call it homework. It's like, how do we take action on one of the things that I said? Was there a light bulb moment that I was like, I think I could maybe do a better job of doing that? And to be perfectly honest, I think it might be something where it's just like you take a more broad look at your finances and maybe where you think you're not performing well in them. Like, what are the things that maybe you don't think you're doing well? It's like, oh, I'm actually not looking at, I don't even know how much money I'm making every month, or I don't know how much money, I don't know, something like groceries are. So it's like, how can we take a step back and maybe like, okay, what am I bad at? And let's just do that a little more, and a little more successfully maybe. Because as fast as people want things to happen in their personal finances, like it's not just going to happen immediately. In most cases, if you don't have a savings or barely have any savings, it's just not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to build up over time. And again, start small. Do save $100 a month if you can, where it's like you get a paycheck and you put money aside instantly, and then the rest of the money is for kind of the rest of your budget. So the rest of your need items and your want items, and just start that and see how that works. All right, guys. Well, that's gonna wrap up Thursday night's live stream of Finance After Dark. Um, keep checking out the daily series here that I'm doing in June. I appreciate you guys so much that are hanging out on, every night or most nights. That's so cool. Obviously don't feel obligated, but I'm glad that, I'm glad that these have been helpful. It's been so fun to kind of chat with you guys here, and have a good